Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
So, folks, what do you think? What's your feeling here? Are we panicking? Maybe just panicking a little bit, maybe panicking a lot. What's your assessment of our reaction thus far to Omicron? I know it's still early in the game, no question about that. But the evidence does seem to be mounting in several different locations that while this new variant is infectious as hell, just spreads like wildfire, those who do test positive, for the most part, rare exception, are not very ill. In fact, many don't seem to show any symptoms at all. The mayor, for example, tests positive, and from all reports, no symptoms. And the fact that you test positive with no symptoms seems to be pretty prevalent. That's out there. So, and then even those who are sick, for the most part, they're reporting not much more than maybe a few sniffles and maybe a sore throat for a day or two. As I say, it's still very early, but I'm just beginning to wonder if we're panicking. All sorts of new restrictions just imposed in Quebec, John.
Yes, sir.
What's happening there? Just briefly.
All right, let me just get over to that page right now. But basically, as of 5 o'clock today, bars must shut down. Movie theaters must shut down. Cinemas, concert venues, spas. As of 5 p.m. today, restaurants going forward will be at 50%. They must limit their hours from 5 to 10 p.m. And professional sports may continue, but with no fans in the stands.
Wow, so it's even stricter than the restrictions here in Ontario.
Yep.
I've done a fair amount of research here, and it is hard to sort of decipher a lot of the data that's available. But there's some very interesting figures coming out of South Africa, which is, as you know, the first place that the new Omicron was spotted. There are only, I'm going to read this so that I get it absolutely right. There are only 1.7%, excuse me, of those testing positive for Omicron who require hospital treatment, compared to 19% with previous waves of Delta. Not only that, but they say that even some of the 1.7% probably is a little inflated because the hospitals have room now, and so they are treating people with milder symptoms than they did before. So just to repeat, under the previous Delta waves, etc., many waves, the average number of people requiring hospitalization of those who tested positive was 19%. So you have 100 people who tested positive for Delta, 19 of them required hospitalization of some nature, but serious enough for hospitalization. But now, if you test positive, this is in South Africa, if you test positive for Omicron, only 1.7%. So there's a hell of a difference. There's no question about it. Here in Ottawa, very interesting. As of Friday, there were 1,000 confirmed cases of Omicron, but only 2 of those 1,000 were sick enough to require hospitalization, and none of them in ICU. So the percentage of that, if 2 in 1,000, is 0.002%. I mean, almost insignificant. So that's the early report here in Ottawa. Now, as I say, it's still very early in the game. But every day the evidence seems to be piling up that Omicron, with rare exception, is much milder than Delta. In fact, one scientist not long ago sort of suggested that, you know what, if Omicron is as mild as it seems to be, it might be a blessing in disguise. It would appear that virtually everybody's going to get it. It's so contagious. And if everybody got it and there were no serious symptoms, it would probably be a good thing because it would provide immunity for almost everybody. So I don't know if he's accurate or not. That's one person's point of view. But it all comes back to this question. Are we overreacting? All of the restrictions, small business attacked. Um, as I say, it's in Quebec. It's even worse than here in Ontario. It's beginning to reach the point where you just wonder if any small businesses are going to be able to survive at all. And not only that, but many of them have been able to survive because of government handouts. But how much longer can we continue to hand out billions of dollars of money because businesses can't make a go of it? I mean, it's at some point it's got to end. At some point, the World Monetary Fund moves in here and says, "Look, you got to stop printing so much money. Inflation is just going to go through the roof." So I just I just, as I say, I'm getting the feeling that we may be overreacting on this. And then there's another issue here. We've been through this with it. This is almost what 2.5 years now, about 2 years since we've been getting vaccines. I still don't understand why we can't get it right. 11,000 booster registration spots available, apparently, as of Sunday. And within a few minutes, apparently, of them, excuse me, being available, they were all booked, 11,000. But I mean, small wonder. The population of this city is 1 million people. 11,000 is about 10%. They told everybody to get a booster shot. They've scared the bejabbers out of everybody. So everybody's lining up to get a boosters, but there aren't enough. Well, why aren't there enough? Trudeau has been promising for 2 years now. He's been boasting about all of the tens and hundreds of millions of vaccines that he's bought and so forth. And even just very recently in an interview, I saw him say, no, we have plenty. Well, if we have plenty, how come we don't have plenty here in Ottawa? How come we don't have plenty in Ontario? And let's get this straight. There's only one person responsible if we don't have enough booster shots. That person is Justin Trudeau. It is Justin Trudeau, the federal government's responsibility to get the booster shots into the country. We don't make any here, which is another story. So it's up to Trudeau. That's his sole job, really, in all of this. He sort of backed off and said, hey, I wash my hands of this, wash my hands of that. So, but he does have the responsibility to get the boosters. So you can be damn sure that Doug Ford, in fact, all the provincial premiers are now going to get the backlash again. You're screwing this up. Well, if they don't have the shots, they can't administer them. If Doug Ford doesn't have 1 million doses to send to Ottawa, then he can't send 1 million doses. If he only has 11,000 doses, then that's all he can send. And that's the sole responsibility of the Pride. I just want to make that clear. Because once again, it's the premiers that are, because what's happened here, Trudeau is responsible for getting the booster shots into the country. Then they're distributed to the provinces, and the provinces are responsible for distributing to the municipalities, et cetera, et cetera. But the first thing that's got to happen is you got to have the booster shots in the country, right? You can't deliver what you don't have. So I don't know. Ford will be blamed. I just like your experiences here. And also now we have the same thing with these test kits. People lining up, and we went through this again on Friday, people lining up for test kits. They weren't there, et cetera, et cetera. And now we're being told that the testing facilities in the city are overwhelmed and that you probably cannot be tested. But these home test kits are so small. I don't understand. Now, it could be that you can't mail them out in the cold weather. I don't know. But it seems to me that there's a better way to get these test kits into our homes. I mean, if necessary, give them to the mailman and let the mailman drop them off at every door. I mean, there's no innovation. There's no thought. Oh, well, we'll give the test kits out to the LCBO, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we all know what happened. But they're very small, they're very light, and they're very effective and very easy to use. I used one. I was in a situation where I may have been subjected to somebody with COVID, so I did a test. I'm fine, thank God. But it's very easy to do. I mean, it took me maybe 1 minute, and then by the time you drop the little thing on that and you read that, it takes at maximum 5 minutes to get your results. And apparently they're over 80% effective. So why we can't get enough booster shots? We tell people to get booster shots, and then we tell them, well, we don't have enough to give you. What the hell kind of administration is that? And then we say, well, get these test kits, and then they don't send enough test kits. I mean, Like, is there anybody anywhere that's in authority on this damn thing that knows what they're doing? It sure is frustrating, is it not? Um, I just want to make something very clear here, okay? I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying. Delta is still very much with us. It's very dangerous, very contagious. Uh, Omicron is extremely contagious, and some people from with it still get quite sick. So, of course, wear your mask, do what you're supposed to, wash your hands, distance yourself from strangers, don't assemble in large groups, and get a booster shot. Absolutely. If they can ever get them here, get a booster shot. So I just want to make that plain. But the question is, do we really need to put our small business people through hell once again? I think the jury is still out. And as far as travel goes, the confusion that exists in travel, it's quite astonishing. John, you and I went through this on Friday. We cry out for leadership, we cry out for clarity, and we sure as hell aren't getting any. It's not, the original excuse when there was a delay in vaccines, and so, well, it's new. But we've been doing this now for 2.5 years. It's bloody well time that we got it right. Uh, John, any comments coming in?
So the one that stands out to me so far, and we've got lots of comments, is Chrissy saying she's already seeing people going and grabbing more than one test kit and seeing them sold online. That's where we're at. People are now selling these on Kijiji, apparently. All right, here we go. Some of the comments. Lizzie says, I believe the vaccines are working and that this is being described as a bad cold. I don't get it. Again, it's early in the process. Anne says, I don't know what to believe anymore. So many opinions and not all on the same page. Yay, another lockdown for Christmas, says Lisa. South Africa is safer than Ontario, asks Terry. Anne says, I was thinking it was being way too blown up. Most thought that it was really infectious, probably for sure, but it did not appear as deadly or would there not be more deaths reported as there were in the beginning? But I heard in an interview with Dr. Isaac Bogok this morning that he's pretty straight, not an alarmist. He said they do not know yet how deadly it is since it is so infectious. That is where it needs precaution or could end, blah, blah.
Yeah, this is the concern, and I understand this. They're saying, listen, even though it may be far milder than Delta, if we are, if millions of people come down with this, even if a small percentage of them require hospitalization, it will still overwhelm the hospitals. But I repeat, there's still no evidence of that. I mean, here in Ottawa, we had 300 and some odd new cases, I think, on Sunday. And we only have 4 people in hospital and nobody in ICU. So,
that's right.
As I say, there seems to be growing evidence, and the stories coming out of South Africa. I'm not suggesting that there's not a danger. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just wondering if we may have jumped the rails a little bit on this one. Talking about jumping the rails, more delays on phase 2. Surprise, surprise, right?
There's the segue king.
It really, once again, it begs the question: is there anybody in authority in this country that can get anything done right? Can we build anything here? I look at the UK, marvelous feat of engineering, drilled a tunnel underneath the channel, high-speed trains now going through to France, etc., etc. Japan has had high-speed trains. Some of them are doing as much as 300 kilometers an hour for 50 years. Never been a single fatal accident in 50 years in Japan. China got the high-speed rail now that they're doing over 300 miles an hour. No problems. Like, if China can do this, how come it takes over 5 hours to get a train from Ottawa to Toronto? Anyway, I'm on another topic here, but if anybody has any thoughts on any of this, you just shake your head and say, is there anybody, any place that can get anything done right? How long have we been trying to twin the Trans Mountain Pipeline? This is what now, about 140 years. There's a pipeline already exists, and I found it really ironic. BC had to ration gasoline, and prices skyrocketed. Why? Because the Trans Mountain Pipeline, the small one that's through there now, they had to close down because of the floods. So, but I mean, it's just can anything get done here anymore? How can these other nations? We like to think of China as a pretty backward place where people still run around with rickshaws, for God's sake. They got high speed rail. You know how long it would take them to take a train from Ottawa to Toronto? And about 45 minutes they'd have it there. I mean, it's nuts. Did you ever try taking a train from here, from Ottawa to Toronto? It'll take you 5 to 6 hours, for God's sake. John, go ahead. Any more comments coming in?
Yeah, we've got Nina says dropping test kits off at the door does not bring in money. Picking up the LCBO, you'll buy booze as well. Same goes for pharmacy and other areas where you tend to buy other items. Hey, our friend Dennis is back. He'd like me to get off the screen because it's not my show, apparently. It's just your show. So, hi, Dennis. You're so cute, Dennis. Dennis, I'd like to meet you. I think you and we need to have a makeout session.
Tut, now.
No, he's so in love with me. He's so concerned about my looks all the time.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, he lives. Go ahead.
I know, whatever. Because I give a shit what some guy in Windsor thinks of my little radio show. Lisa, anyway, I've given him more of the spotlight that he deserves. Lisa says if they reduce capacity in indoor facilities and universities, it's only a matter of time they will choose to do a full lockdown. And for what? A mild virus? She says she's COVID weary. And how many doses will there be? For all our lives, there will be many other variants to come, and the world will freak out over each and every
talking
one.
about that's a very good point. Our grandson attends Queen's University. He's a freshman there, and he's back home. They sent him home. Well, in some cases, they couldn't go home, so some people are still living there. But essentially, there are no classes at Queen's University. I don't know if the other universities have followed suit or not. So, I mean, that's just one example. But now, mind you, Kingston. But here we go again. Kingston had a real bad outbreak of Omicron, all kinds of infections. But once again, if you look at the hospital numbers, very minimal. So what's the true story here? Yes, it's highly infectious. Yes, it just seems that it's spreading like wildfire. But is it serious, or is it just some version of the cold? Go ahead, John.
All right, here we go. Angela says if they follow the science and see what's happening in South Africa, where less than 7% vaccinated and is not overwhelming the hospitals, they are overreacting. Anne says that provincial portal is like a cruel joke on old people. I was so stressed about the thought of going on there to book an appointment that I threw myself on the mercy of Rexall and begged them to book me an appointment if they did. Pity is underrated. That's one of the best comments we've ever had. Congratulations. Dean says they keep telling us we are on the verge of overwhelming our ICU beds and keep spreading fear without giving us the entire story. After a while, you'd just stop listening. How about telling us the percentage of ICU beds occupied? That would be more informative to know if we are 25% full or 99% full. This would go towards communicating the situation more clearly and help quell gossip and conspiracy theories.
Well, this is one of the, and we've talked about this before, John. This is one of the problems. And that is, even without COVID, our hospitals are jammed. And that's the problem. And only in rare cases has any adjustment been made. Listen, it's not just a matter of funding, although obviously we've got to spend billions more on hospital care. But we've got to have some other methods. All right, we must allow some privatization. There is no reason why you can't go to a private clinic to get a new knee or a new hip. There isn't. Even the private clinic could be funded by OHIP. In the case of the Shouldice Clinic in Toronto, which is where you get hernia operations, it's a private clinic, but for the most part, it's covered by OHIP. One day they keep you an extra day at the Shouldice Clinic because they feel that it should be there an extra day, and you are billed for the one day. But the rest of it, it's a private clinic. It's been there for many years. It's world renowned. Specialists from around the world come to train there, but it's covered by OHIP. So why can't I go to a private clinic and get a new hip, get my knee fixed, or get a broken bone? Why do you have to go to the hospital to get a bone? There should be clinics where you can go and get your arm set. It's craziness.
So you want a choice?
Well, absolutely a choice. Like
either wait for the public healthcare system to take care of you, or if I wanted expedited, private clinic.
Well, as you know what? As they're doing in Quebec. I mean, Quebec even has private hospitals now. I'm saying that it covered with OHIP, but allow some very government monopolies do not work. Can you imagine, John, what it would be like if government had a monopoly on grocery stores? There was only the government grocery store. You had to buy your groceries at the government. Can you imagine the lineup? Well, they tried that in Russia, didn't they?
Well, aren't they
Lineups
trying that
around the
with
block.
aren't they trying that with the automotive car sales now?
Oh God. But we still have this idea, oh, we can't have privatized. When I mean, 2/3 of all medicine in this province is privatized anyway. Your doctor is private. There's private clinics. You can get an X-ray and a ultrasound at a private clinic, but you can't get an MRI at a private. I mean, it makes no sense, and it's plugging up our hospitals. Go ahead, John.
So this is a question I asked in a conversation this weekend. Where, like you said, we're 2.5 years. Not one person has stood up saying we have a healthcare crisis. Look at the aging population. This is not news to us. Where is the solution? Instead of shutting restaurants down and making business people suffer, where is the person standing up saying we are going to hire more doctors, we are going to open more beds to the people? I mean, didn't we at one point offer medical students, we will pay your tuition if you're willing to work in the north? Why are we not standing up saying we will pay for your education, but you need to commit to at least as many years of serving your province?
Because we don't have politicians that are capable of looking ahead
There you go.
with any sort of thought and foresight. Very, very rare. Unfortunately, at every level, we are electing politicians, I believe, with fewer and fewer abilities. Today, it seems, number one, you've got to have all sorts of charisma. You've got to have the big smile, et cetera, or you don't get elected. We're dumping good people by the wayside, and I just feel that the overall ability of politicians at every level. There are some very good ones, no question, but and the systems as well block any attempt. I mean, as I say, look at what's happened with a Trans Mountain. I desperately need Trans Mountain. Now, how many years has this taken? It's because the systems and a rail. I mean, our system of rail in this country is antiquated. Our system of rail is about what it was in the 18th century in Britain, for Christ's sake, when there were steam trains going through or being pulled by horses. Go ahead, John. I'm lecturing here.
That's okay. We have got a pile of comments still to go, but we've got to get a word in here for Shield.
For Shield, yes. All right. Don't forget, folks, in all probability, as certainly very soon in the new year, if not January 1st, the price of almost all appliances is going to have to go up. The federal government has legislated that only appliances with the Energy Star label will be allowed to be sold here. That means the less expensive brands of many refrigerators, dishwashers, et cetera, they will not be available. Thus, only the more expensive brands will be available. So if you're in the market for an appliance, will need one, please check out Shields. They have a great variety there. Their website is first rate. Even if you think, oh, I might maybe save a couple of dollars with a big box store, check them out. Give them a chance. They're local. They're good people. They have a huge selection. They'll deliver the appliance of your choice within 2 or 3 days. They'll do it with a smile, and then they might even give you a couple of free T-bone steaks. Shields.ca. Go ahead, John.
Want to go to a comment from Jane that she posted a short time ago. She says, yes, hospitals were definitely overloaded before COVID ever hit. My husband passed away from cancer in January 2020, and my poor man had to spend 2 days in a hallway because there were no rooms available. Awful. Just awful. Good politician, says Glenn. Just look at Trudeau's ministers. Satan's Playmate says, if you are on workers' comp, you can request treatment in a private clinic in Montreal. Workers' compensation pays transport, hotel treatment. Did the 18-month wait for shoulder repair, had it fixed in Montreal. Ray says, how many in ICU? That would be 0, Ray. Ann says, if Aaron O'Toole had run on taking a real stab at trying to improve our healthcare system and fixing the economy, he would have won. He was too waffly on it, too many issues, but of course, everyone jumped on two-tier healthcare, which was a ridiculous argument. The system, the way it is not sustainable. Something has to give. We will have to utilize the private sector way more than we are, says Ann on Facebook. Gene says, that's one of the reasons I loved Harper. He did not pander to the media. He had a backbone. He stood up for us. He was respected around the world. And we've got an email from Robert. He says it seems that lockdowns are becoming the normal reaction when they should be the absolute exception. We are vaccinated. We had better learn to live with this. Lockdowns severely punish a few, while most others sit home and get paid. It has to stop.
We're almost out of time here. Any comment concerning another announcement about more delays on light rail? Here we go again. I say, like, can anything get built in this country? What, we're good people here. We're well educated. We're hardworking for the most part. What's the problem? Why can Japan build high speed rail, and we can't do it here in Canada? I mean, if ever there was a nation that required high speed rail, surely to God, it's Canada. This is a country of sparse population spread out over wide areas. It cries out for high speed rail. I mean, our system of rail is antiquated, and as I say, we can't get pipelines built. We can't get major projects built except in Quebec. They don't seem to have any problem getting projects built in Quebec, many times without even environmental studies. That's a different story. And the rest of the country, it just seems that nothing can get done. And here we go with light rail. Billions of dollars invested. We know the mess that we've got. And now there's another delay. They say, well, it could be 6 months, 8 months. Yeah, I have to tell you something, folks. If they tell you there's going to be delay 6, 8 months, look at a year and a half, maybe 2 years delay. And don't forget that every time there's a delay, the cost of everything goes way up. I just don't understand why we can't get anything built. I'll tell you one of the reasons is that the environmental movement is so powerful, so influential in this country that it's virtually impossible to get anything done. I remember a time when, if you had a road and it needed a new culvert, what happened? Well, you'd come along, the township, go to the township, but we need this culvert's rusting out. Okay, we'll send some boys out. They would go out. There was no environmental study. They just went out, sent some guys with some shovels or a front end loader, scooped it out, put a new culvert in, covered it up, and that was it. It was all over in a day. Now it's probably going to take you about 6 months. It's going to have to go through environmental studies, then it's going to have to go through God knows what else, and something else, and finally maybe they'll fix the culvert.
Well, you can't even have a concert in the park now because there might be a bird's nest there, right?
Well, to be honest, you know what? They stopped construction of the twinning of the pipeline Trans Mountain because they found some rare birds nesting nearby, and so they halted. This is a multi-billion-dollar project employing hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and they hold it up for about 4 or 5 months because of some nesting birds in nearby trees. That's one of the problems. We've allowed the environmental movement to take over, to stop virtually anything. I mean, let's face it, the environmental movement, they would have us go back to the Stone Age. I mean, the Stone Age, well, because we wouldn't be able to mine iron anymore, right? So we wouldn't have steel we have no more steel, no more oil, no more gas, just stone. John, go ahead. Any more?
Mike brings up the example of the blending turtles that held up the Stranraer Bridge construction. You're right.
Yeah, how about the blending turtles? We built, folks, Terry Fox, which is not far from where I am now, Terry Fox Drive, $1 million to erect a blending turtle fence, which is now half down. Okay, when a tree falls over the fence, I drive by there, used to, and it's half destroyed. $1 million and you know what? There's no blending turtles here. This is not their habitat. These little turtles, they breathe through their bums, which means that they have to have they're
Really?
bum breathers. Yeah, they're bum breathers. Okay, and so which means that they have to have open water to winter, so that the water has got to be deep enough so that there is still some open water so that they can breathe through their bums when they hibernate in the wintertime. And the Carp Creek, believe me, it freezes solid during the winter time. There's no blending turtles here. It's not their habitat. But $1 million we spent, and then apparently about another $1 million on the Upper Dwyer Hill Road for another damn blending turtle fence. It's crazy. It's crazy. Go ahead, John.
Remember Earl McRae's famous columns about the Carp River when they were trying to build the Corral Center or whatever you call it? If we can get a canoe down it, then we're going to have to hold things up because it's navigable. I know.
It's true. It's true. You know what? The Carp, I love they call it the Carp River. It's so small.
It's a stream.
You know what happens? A cow goes into it and they love the cool, okay? So they lie down and they plug the damn creek for about 4 days. We
Lori
have
says,
to go.
Lori says, my family's in construction. They were sent home because of a bird's nest. So there you go.
It's nuts. Thank you all, folks. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.